Badminton's out. In the Justin Olympics, badminton's out.
I have no problem with the shuttlecock.
I know you do not. I'm Justin Lesko, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer.
I love the Olympics. I actually love the term Olympiad. I think it's the same part of me that prefers kilograms to pounds.
Yeah, that actually explains a lot. That's also the part of you that never gets invited to any parties. So
I look forward to the Olympics, and every Olympiad, I wonder why Jiu-Jitsu is not represented.
So we have karate, judo, taekwondo, wrestling, boxing, but no jiu-jitsu.
And the next Olympics will feature breakdancing. So no jiu-jitsu, but we'll have breakdancing. And I'm assuming equestrian dressage will still be in, which is basically horse dancing.
Should it be in the Olympics? Jiu-jitsu, that is. Why isn't it in the Olympics? How would it get into the Olympics? These are all important questions.
Well, make sure you stay till the end of this episode because I've got all of those answers, and I think I know how to improve the Olympics as a whole.
You know what's a good improvement to make?
What's that?
Up in your gi game with Epic Roll. Segue.
Yeah, imagine Epic Roll as the official uniform of the U.S. Olympic Jiu-Jitsu team. What a world that would be.
Fortunately, for the future U.S. Olympic Jiu-Jitsu team, Epic Roll's got them covered both in gi and no gi apparel.
Yeah, very underrated gis from Epic Roll. You can check them out at epicrollbjj.com and use the coupon code podcast15 to take 15% off your order.
Gis, rash guards, t-shirts, shorts, hoodies, artware, coffee mugs, anything and everything that you need, they got. Go check them out.
Give them a follow on the gram at epicrollbjj and use coupon code podcast15 at epicrollbjj.com to get a very patriotic discount from the potential future outfitter of U.S. Jiu-Jitsu.
And now we're going to tell you the best way to improve the Olympics. And Justin is going to say weird shit like Olympiad way too many times.
Welcome to that Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Well, I am enjoying the games of the 32nd Olympiad. Mike is on his 10 or 12th vacation of the summer. I can't keep track. So we have Mike Callahan on location from a beach house.
First of all, you need fucking sand for there to be a beach. There's no sand. I'm on the Chesapeake Bay, about 30 minutes from anything that remotely resembles civilization. Okay? The house is 100% haunted where I'm at. And it's my second vacation of the year. The other times...
In 2 weeks. And how many more do you have?
I don't know.
At least 4, right?
I have one more.
Next week.
1.5 more. And it's in 2 weeks. Anyway. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So I got really upset and I stirred some controversy on Instagram last week when I posted how... I'm always out here stirring up the controversy on the IG. I posted how...
Well, let's stop there because the weirdest part about it is you start all this shit on Instagram and then my phone just starts blowing up. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you just drop a little gas on the fire and then you leave. And I don't even know if you look at your phone again. And then I'm just getting like... Yeah, like you want to know when I got notified? I was like, it's like Todd Duffy has liked your post. I'm like, what the fuck is Todd Duffy doing? You know, like
the controversy I started was because I posted how, as we said in the intro, breakdancing is going to be part of the next Olympics in 2024 in Paris, and I had posted that that's silly because it is, and jiu-jitsu's not in. And there was a lot of people who were either really into the idea of jiu-jitsu in the Olympics and a lot of people who were really against jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. And there was only 1 or 2 people who were like, yeah, breakdancing should be in. But I always wonder during the Olympics, where is jiu-jitsu? Why do we have so many sports? And we're going to get into the really silly sports that shouldn't be there anymore. But what are they doing here with no jiu-jitsu?
And why do we only have 6 weight classes in wrestling?
This is not a wrestling in the Olympics.
But why do we only have 6? Why do we only have 6 during the Olympic years and 10 during non-Olympic years? So I'm done. Don't get me started on this. But if we're talking about bullshit Olympic stuff, maybe throw that in there.
So I want to give some
credit.
Where did it go?
It's like you just fucking 4 weight classes vanish every 4 years.
I had posted about it, and a fella named, I ran down so I don't mess it up, at Zach Flo, and he basically said that breaking or breakdancing, it's much bigger now than you might think it is, and they have events all over, and they had like that whole community like rallied together to get breakdancing into the Olympics. And I appreciate that perspective, but I still think it's silly that breakdancing is in the Olympics. But I can value the fact that he commented. And he also agreed that jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics. So we're going to get into, should it be? Will it be? Why wouldn't it be? And what do we need for it to be? So first question is, should jiu-jitsu be in the Olympics? Because if not, the whole conversation doesn't matter.
All right, well, let me ask you this. What's this guy's name? Zach what?
At Zach Flo, but I think the O is a 0. I'll put it on the screen if you're watching the YouTube version.
All right, cool name. I don't necessarily know if we want to align with somebody who's advocating for breakdancing, so we appreciate it, but get the fuck out of here. We don't need you advocating for jiu-jitsu if you're advocating for breakdancing.
I appreciate anyone who advocates jiu-jitsu.
Are you asking, like, you're not asking me this. Like, it's just... You're not asking a guy who's the co-host of that jiu-jitsu podcast if jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics. Like, if that's your first question...
I'm asking anyone who's watching the YouTube version, you can comment below whether you think jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics.
Obviously, it should be in the Olympics. So let's...
Well, my biggest argument for why jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics is jiu-jitsu beats all of the other combat sports that are already in the Olympics. Boxing, judo, wrestling, taekwondo, karate, jiu-jitsu beats them all. Why is it not there?
I mean, that's your personal opinion, but...
That's my personal factual opinion, but...
No, I don't know.
I mean, at least boxing and judo and wrestling, like, they make sense and they serve as a good base for a fight. Taekwondo and karate, just get out of here. Have you watched any of the Taekwondo?
Yeah, I was actually watching Taekwondo, but apologies to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. We would never say anything to offend you. You would kill us, and you're the nicest man in the world. But yeah, karate and Taekwondo should not be in the Olympics over jiu-jitsu. I have no problems with the other ones. And that's just personal preference.
Sometimes you see like a flashy, cool knockout in Taekwondo, but if you've watched any of the Taekwondo or any karate in this year's Olympiad, should I put an Olympiad counter up there? How many times I say Olympiad? But karate and Taekwondo, they're not effective fighting styles. They just aren't. Karate has
unless you're Stephen Thompson.
Or Lyoto Machida. Just 2 out of, 10,000 ever UFC fighters have had success as karate fighters. Whatever. Numbers. Who needs them? Karate, they do like the kata on top of like actual fights, which is just karate dancing. That's not like, what do I need that for? I don't need that.
We should really focus on why jiu-jitsu should be in there, because there's a ton of reasons. I think that it would bring notoriety to the sport. I think it would put the top level guys who are already kind of getting into the mainstream, even, it would put them even more so into that mainstream. It would give them, kind of put them in the spotlight. And I think that it would just push jiu-jitsu out there further if it was in the Olympics. Those are the main reasons. But yeah, fuck these other sports. We're not biased.
So we're not biased at all. I mean, the name of our show is, all sports are equal and great podcast.
Yeah, it's fuck those other sports podcasts.
Right. So I started looking and doing some research into what you need to have to be an Olympic sport, like what it takes to get your sport into the Olympics. So there has to be a international governing body, and the IBJJF is in it, and I'll get to that in a minute. It says that a sport must be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries and on 4 continents, and by women in no fewer than 40 countries and on 3 continents, which, sexist. Kids should be the same. Women do things men do.
Well, okay.
They're also...
We can discuss that another day, but I agree with you.
So there
So
needs
I
to
think
be
we're covered there.
there needs to be an international federation, and there needs to be the sport has to follow like Olympic level drug testing, which jiu-jitsu does not. And we'll get into the reasons why that jiu-jitsu might be prevented from joining the Olympics, but I'm sure you said it. I'm sure I could go country by country and research and find 75 countries that have a jiu-jitsu school. Like, I think that's possible, right?
100%, 100%. 75 countries isn't that many. And I guarantee you that there's jujitsu being practiced around the world in at least 75 countries and definitely on more than 4 continents. So
we'll get into the IBJJF, like I said, but the drug testing thing is a big hurdle, right? The drug testing thing is going to be a problem because it's no secret that there's a steroid issue in jiu-jitsu. At the top, there's a steroid issue.
We don't need to revisit that, but again, that's fine. It would because some of the top names in the sport are kind of tied to PEDs. So if they didn't want to enter into the Olympics, if there were jiu-jitsu in the Olympics and they didn't want to enter into it, then that would be fine. It would just push those clean athletes into the spotlight, which is what we want anyway, right? You know?
Right. So there's going to be 1,000 comments on this YouTube video that are going to talk all about why USADA sucks and why WADA sucks and how you can beat those and who's going to pay for it. First of all, we will pay for it. Not you and me, not Mike and Justin.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's not us.
No.
What you have to remember about drug testing for the Olympics is not asking like the IBJJF, for example, to drug test every athlete who goes to every one of their tournaments. You're going to have to test the people who are potentially going to represent their countries. You're going to have to test the people at the top, and it has to be out of competition testing too, so you can't just do the old cycle off before the day of the meet. It will cost money, but if I'm already going to pay the IBJJF, $200 in total for one tournament, I think that they could swing it to test maybe 100 people per country. I think it could happen. I don't know their books. I don't know their revenue. I think they could swing it. And I would be happy to know that if I was paying $200 for a tournament, it was going towards drug testing so jiu-jitsu could be in the Olympics. That's just me. Let me know why I'm wrong in the comments.
Yeah, I think that is a big excuse that is widely used in the sport is, they bring in some type of cost analysis in terms of testing and the amount of athletes and where would the funding come from. And I think that as with a lot of things in this sport and in life, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think we could very easily find a way that was cost effective to test these athletes.
How can you say that jiu-jitsu couldn't be tested when USA Gymnastics finds a way to test people, USA Weightlifting finds a way to test people, every federation on the planet for every sport in the Olympics finds a way? You mean to tell me we can't test jiu-jitsu athletes, but the UK handball team is going to be tested? They have more revenue than the IBJJF does. The Badminton Association is going to be able to test their athletes, but the IBJJF can't. I just don't believe it.
Okay. Well, you shouldn't believe it because if you look at it, the IBJJF is out to make money. They're not out to advance the mission of this sport, They're out to make money. And when you start talking about chopping into the fees that they're collecting and using them to pay for drug tests, it's not going to happen. But if you did get some type of international governing body whose mission was to push this into the Olympics, and part of that mission was to implement a drug testing system, it would have to be with the understanding is that you're not going to be collecting revenue like the IBJJF does because it's going to cost more money.
Well, so this sort of naturally bleeds into the subcategory of why isn't jiu-jitsu in the Olympics? And the IBJJF is part of that problem because, as I stated a few minutes ago, the IBJJF, even though it has the word federation, that's what the F means, that is not a governing body that would be recognized by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, because the IBJJF is a for-profit company. They're not an international governing body. They don't have board members that are elected like a federation for any other sport has to have. The IBJJF is a for-profit business. Another barrier to getting in the Olympics is you'd have to create a new governing body, a new federation with elected board members, with revenue that we just talked about to pay for all the things we just talked about. Would it be easier to transition the IBJJF into that governing body than to create a new one?
No.
It would be easier, but it wouldn't happen. It would be easier to just say, okay, your privately owned company is now going to have elected board members and you're not going to be for profit. And that would be an easier setup than it won't happen ever. It'd be impossible to do.
In theory, that would be easier, but that would never happen. It's one family that owns that. They're out to make money, as you can tell by these fucking fees and everything. And they don't have interest in going from what looks to be a profitable enterprise into something that's
right,
not, just for the sake of pushing this to an Olympic level. So yeah, that's not going to happen.
Right. So if anyone listening has a couple billion lying around and they want to go head to head with the IBJJF but not make profit and be a federation instead for jiu-jitsu to get to the Olympics, I mean, maybe we could get under the wrestling umbrella, although I just shit talked wrestling a little bit, so that probably won't happen. Yeah, you just did,
and we don't want you with us. By the way, speaking of wrestling,
here we go.
You done?
I'm done.
You done,
I'm
Lance?
done.
You done, Lance Armstrong?
I'm done.
Speaking of which, you come on here with all this this audacity to talk about PEDs when your little fucking cycling sport is the biggest druggies in the
15 years ago.
Anyway, it's the most sophisticated doping scandal in the world. You're gonna come in. Never mind.
Somebody read the tagline from a movie. Go ahead, talk about wrestling.
So I got up today, and when I got up yesterday, I saw that the finals in the women's 76 kilos in freestyle, because I don't really watch Greco-Roman, but in freestyle was going to be today at 3:15. But I can't find like a schedule, and it says 3:15, and it's like I thought it said Eastern Standard. I get up. Adeline Gray's in the middle of a match. In the middle of her finals match, she lost. It was terrible. I think she lost 7-3.
It is a real killer when the Olympics are like on the other side of the world, so the timing is all screwed up. It's like I'm trying to watch the gymnastics without knowing the results at night. You put it on at 8 p.m. at night, but I see it all day long talking about.
Yeah. I'll tell you I swear to you, I was watching something with like the equestrians today, and there's one where they just trot around.
Yeah.
Like they don't jump over everything.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Dressage.
They just go out and they trot around and then they go back. And I'm like, where the fuck did they go? Are they coming back out here to finish this? Like a fucking horse. Yeah. What? This is a sport? They just went for a jog around and now they're back. My brother-in-law's like, no, that's it. I'm like, what do you mean that's it?
Another barrier to jiu-jitsu is attendance, because the Olympics is a money-making venture. And if you don't have a lot of attendance, you're not going to be a part of the program. And that was why wrestling almost got cut, because wrestling was struggling with attendance at like the national meets and the world championships. The attendance was way down. So the Olympics was like, we're not going to put this on if people aren't coming to that. So, and this is obviously not like pandemic time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. There's only one explanation for that, right? And it's that there's people who don't watch wrestling and they're fucking idiots. That's the only thing, right? So we can agree on that. So next question. Thanks to all the idiots who almost killed the sport. And because of you, I have 4 less weight classes to watch during the Olympic years.
So you would have to make sure that
I could have been watching like 7 days of wrestling, but now I only get like 4.5. And I got to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it.
So
because of you dipshits.
So if you want jiu-jitsu to be in the Olympics,
sorry for cursing.
make sure that you're showing up to World Championships to watch in person, and make sure you're getting your subscriptions up to Flow Grappling and Fight TV and every other broadcast partner that's going to show any form of jiu-jitsu. But attendance is an issue, and we sort of touched on it. The steroids is an issue, but we fixed that. We solved that problem with the testing. We're good there. But I think a big question would be, would elite competitors give up the juice, stop sipping on the Capri Sun long enough to win a gold medal at the Olympics, rather than just keep juicing and win ADCC and IBJJF Worlds and every other major tournament? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no.
I don't know.
No.
So as I said before, there was some controversy. There were some responses negatively about jiu-jitsu being in the Olympics. So I would like to address some of them. The most common complaint about people talking about jiu-jitsu being in the Olympics was that jiu-jitsu would be somehow ruined by the Olympics. And a lot of people looked at judo as an example of that, because in order to keep judo exciting, to keep their attendance up, to stay in the Olympics, judo messed with the rules a lot. And people have argued that judo isn't as good as it was because the rules have been changed so much and it's been like bastardized. And to that, I have 2 points. Number one, I think jiu-jitsu is more exciting than the combat sports we already have on its own already. I think jiu-jitsu is more exciting than karate. It's more exciting than taekwondo. It's more exciting than judo, right? Point number 2, I would take a weird rule set to get jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. And I know not everyone would agree with that.
I think that the ADCC rule set would be perfectly fine, and I'm actually okay with only having no gi or gi grappling in there. Like, if they just took ADCC, the ADC format, and put that into the Olympics, I would be totally fine with that. Like, either way. And I'd be okay with just gi or just no gi, as long as it was in the Olympics. This is all hypothetical. It's never going to happen. It is what it is. But if they said you can only have one, gi or no gi, and you're like, no, that makes sense because there's variations of other things that we don't have in here, so of other sports that don't exist in the Olympics. So if we could only choose one, and then you kind of align the rule set with whatever choice you make.
I get the argument of like, what would the rule set be? How would it be scored? I don't know. I don't know. I like all rule sets for different reasons, but again, I would take any of them if it was in. It wouldn't matter to me what the rule set was if we got to see jiu-jitsu at the Olympics, because I do think, as cheesy as it might be, like, the Olympics is the peak of athletics. The Olympics is the pinnacle of what you can hope to accomplish as an athlete, to win a gold medal in the Olympics. It'd be cool if jiu-jitsu was there. I think that I would rather win. Neither of us are ever going to win an Olympic gold medal or win ADCC. I will win a Masters World Championship probably this year, so I'm not going to include that in this question. But would you rather win an Olympic gold medal or win ADCC?
That's really tough. Probably an Olympic gold medal.
There's just something about an Olympic gold medal that is just universally recognized as like, you're the best dude in the world. It's just...
Yeah, probably an Olympic gold medal. It's close though, because we know how important ADCC is.
Right.
We know this. We know the prestige that surrounds that event. So it is really, really tough. But probably an Olympic gold medal.
Maybe one day we will live in a world where a person will do both. A person will win ADCC, Olympic gold medal, and the IBJJF World Championship. They would have to be the best grappler of all time.
That's not true.
If you pulled off the Triple Crown like that, that doesn't make you the best of all time?
No, because it means you had one good year.
3 times.
And you're... No, I mean, like, if you want to... Wait, you're talking about if you won a GI World title, an ADCC championship, and a gold medal? Is that what you're saying? I mean, that's like Hodger. It's like Buchecha.
Yeah, if they did it, that would instantly rank them as the best ever. There are currently 33 sports contested in this year's Olympiad. I'm going to make the Olympics better. immediately. Are you ready?
Okay. Are you going to cut out 31 with the exception of wrestling and jiu-jitsu?
Some things are going to stay in that I think you would want to cut. Marathon is going to stay in because Mike and I are going to run the Disney Marathon this January in Orlando, Florida. I just talked to my wife about this today, and she also said no.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
All right, so I'm going to make the Olympics better. Ready? 33 contested sports this year. 3-on-3 basketball. We already have regular basketball.
See ya.
You're out.
Yep.
Rhythmic gymnastics. Well, we don't need that. We have regular gymnastics. Out of here.
You're
Badminton. I mean, come on.
They can stay.
Badminton stays. You stick on badminton.
Yes.
Badminton's out. In the Justin Olympics, badminton's out.
I have no problem with the shuttlecock.
I know you do not. The canoe events, gone.
I mean, yeah. See ya.
Everything equestrian can fuck right off. Horse dancing,
yeah,
I'm out on.
Especially the thing where they don't do anything. Like if you said like, all right, just one thing, I would just say, why don't you take the event where the horse goes for a walk out? Because that's not really a sport. That's just taking the fucking horse for a walk. Like when I get home on Thursday, I'm going to take my dog for a walk. That's not an Olympic sport.
Call it canine dressage.
So that can go. Yeah, I don't even, what is it? The fact that you even fucking know is so troubling. What is it called?
Dressage. The word dress.
Okay, that's enough.
The letters AGE at the end. Dressage.
Okay, let's go with the dressage.
Sailing. I don't need to watch some geezers on a boat floating down the river. Sailing's out.
See, I'm a big summer rental guy with John Candy. So sailing kind of tugs on the heartstrings a little bit, so they can stay.
I won't bring up the bobsled in the Winter Olympics then for the same reason.
Yeah,
it's a Cool Runnings reference.
And you shouldn't bring bobsled up as something that you would want to take out because bobsled's fucking incredible. But anyway, go ahead.
I dropped the 4-man bobsled. I keep the 2-man. That's personal preference. Karate and Taekwondo.
Your personal preference sucks.
Karate and Taekwondo, as previously stated. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.
I don't. Just because jiu-jitsu is better than them, like they're much better than a number of other sports. They can stay, and they're combat sports, so I'll watch them.
Taekwondo is one of the worst fighting styles. Like it's useless in a fight. It's useless. You can't win a fight just with Taekwondo. You just can't. You need to pair it with other real effective martial arts. Taekwondo, outie.
You can stay.
Shooting. I live in America. I just put the news on. I watch mass shootings happen every day. People getting shot left and right. I don't need to see it as a sport.
Yeah, that's a little. I mean, that's
factually accurate.
I don't even know how that's comparable because they're not shooting people in the Olympics. They're just shooting targets. So I think you're a little off base there.
I gotta slide some left wing into a jiu-jitsu podcast when I can.
That's crazy.
All right, so
Justin's losing his mind. We're going to cut this episode short as Justin's going to go to the mental institution.
I just cut out 11 events. That gives us plenty of room to add 2 more, gi and no gi, in the Olympics. Perfect.
And 4 more weight classes in wrestling.
Sure. While we're at it, we can give you... You want 5? I'll give you 5. I'm feeling generous today.
I want them back. I'll fight all these hornets outside my door right now to get them back.
Well...
Do you know who got them back? Dan fucking Gable.
Yeah.
Dan Gable got them back. Thanks, Dan Gable. Justin's automatically disinterested right now because I'm talking about wrestling.
Thanks, Dan Gable. I like your grip when I'm body lock passing. So I think really honestly, we're a far ways away from jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. Maybe
we'll never
2028. I was going to end the show with, do you think we'll see it? Do you think we won't? I do think one day we could see it. I don't think it'll be for a long, long time.
It'll be called grappling, right? So it won't be called jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think that you'll see it as grappling.
They'll call it submission grappling or submission wrestling or
right, exactly. And I think it'll be, not directly linked to one nation or one culture. And I think you'll most likely see it in no-gi.
Yeah, I would agree. But unfortunately, I think it'll happen so far down the road that we'll be too old to compete, and that will probably be the reason that we don't win. So that's that, and that reason alone, that's a shame. But
Yeah, but we have Masters Worlds awaiting for us. Awaiting
I'm
us.
coming.
Waiting for us. Awaiting
I'm
us.
coming. I'm gonna.
And now I'm going to have to go out too because it's in Las Vegas and Justin's going to win a gold medal and then I'm going to win a gold medal on the blackjack table and it's just going to be...
I'm gonna win Masters Worlds right after Mike and I run the Disney Marathon. Big things happening.
That's not true for two reasons. Number one, I'm not running a fucking marathon. Number two, the Masters Worlds is in November and the Disney Marathon is in January. So
I still love the Olympics. Even without jiu-jitsu, I will love it more when jiu-jitsu's in it. We need someone to spearhead the campaign, and I think that my history of campaigning to get a grappling match with Izzy not working and campaigning to get a grappling match with Sugar Sean O'Malley not working, those experiences have prepared me to lead the charge to get jiu-jitsu in the 2032 Olympics in I don't know which country. Maybe it's not the U.S., but I think it could happen.
Is it true? Let's just talk about the Sugar Sean thing real quick. Is it true that Sugar Sean O'Malley doesn't want any of that smoke? Is that how they say it now?
I tweeted at him very politely, and he didn't respond. So I mean, maybe he doesn't. He's probably got better things to do. But
like dye his hair. Anyway, respectfully,
let us know it.
Calling him out.
Let us know in the comments whether or not you think jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics and whether or not you think jiu-jitsu will be in the Olympics.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and while you're at it, tell your friends to check out the podcast for some great content.
We've got some more videos over here if you want to get some more of us in your lives, and we'll see you in the next video.